Good day to you, and welcome to this episode of An Arizonan here on my YouTube channel. Today we're going to cover something. It's going to seem very Arizona specific, and it is. It's going to be Arizona focused. And the argument that I would make as to why this should appeal to a greater audience than just our local residents here is that the politician I'm getting ready to describe to the voters here in Arizona applies to a lot of Democrat candidates across the country. Now, this isn't a person who is registered to the Republican Party who's, shilling for my party. I'm not that person. When Harry Mitchell was a leader here in the state of Arizona, he was a Democrat. I voted for him because he got results done, right? So very progressive for veterans, really took care of the state. He was born and raised here in Arizona. He was the mayor of Tempe, and then when he went on to lead in Washington, he did some good things. So that man earned my vote, my continued support, despite the fact that he was in the other party. Now, the Republicans could have put a better candidate in there, and they never did. So why would I vote for somebody who is a lesser candidate just because of party affiliation? So I want you to know that's where I come from as a voter, right? And the reason I come from that standpoint as a voter is that my grandmother worked for the school district, my other grandfather from the other side worked for the county, my dad worked for the city, I worked for a special taxing district in the county, my wife's in education, right? So we have been, servants in this desert for a long time. My family has. I'm a second generation Arizona native, born and raised here, and served 4 years in the Marine Corps and then 15 years on a fire truck. So that's why I'm, coming forward and giving this perspective. I've seen the change in my home, and I don't like it. And I talk about who I voted for in the past just to highlight the fact that I'm not, what you're typically getting an opinion or perspective from. You're getting a perspective from somebody who was on a fire truck and was failed by every leader, whether it be Republican or Democrat, the whole time we were out there. So I have a bone to pick with my party as much as I have with the Democrats. But the Democrats, unfortunately, right now have come into a position where I would argue that party has become dangerous. So, that's inflammatory, all those things, but, hear me out is what I'm asking. Listen to my background, listen to my story, and see if I have a point. And again, I didn't vote for Trump the first time. I wrote somebody in that I believed in more because I didn't like either candidate. I wasn't going to vote for Hillary Clinton either. But I did wind up voting for Trump the other two times, again, because it wasn't about supporting Donald Trump. It was about standing in the door against the Democrats and what they've become. And I'm going to get into that perspective and the evidence of that again later in this video. So this video is about Ruben Gallego specifically. Ruben Gallego is currently one of our senators, him and Mark Kelly. We have two Democrats that are representing the great state of Arizona, and neither one of them were born and raised here. Now, you can point to our political past and say, but you've had those leaders before. Yeah, everybody has. Let's not forget, Joe Biden was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and was a congressman out of a different state, right? Barack Obama was born in Hawaii, represents Illinois. Mark Kelly is born in New Jersey, now represents Arizona. Ruben Gallego is from Chicago, now he represents Arizona. So do you see a pattern here? It's these people that don't have hometown roots that then become loyal to the party, and that has become a problem. So Ruben Gallego specifically is the guy that I'm speaking about because I've been one of his constituents for the past 8 years, now that I live in the area behind me, which is South Phoenix. So he was a congressman before he was our senator, and I lived in his district. I never voted for the guy. I didn't like him from the beginning. I didn't like him at the state level. I didn't like him at the city level. He's always been a bully. He's always been the type of guy who, in 2016 when Trump won, and I'm sure he deleted the tweet or whatever, but he said, remember when the worm turns, right? Like, it was like this, when we get back in power, we're gonna show you. And that is not the mark of somebody that we should be trusting to lead this nation or this state or anything else, in my opinion. When he decided to run for governor, I know folks in Sheriff Mark Lamb's camp because he put that senator bid in against Kerry Lake and unfortunately lost in the primaries. But I had gone to some of their campaign things and whatnot and talked to their staff. Background on me, I ran a political action committee for my fire district, so we were able to get people elected that got better fire service for an area, right? So I understand the political system because I utilized it for a special taxing district to actually, get stuff done. We had one fire truck when we started. There's 3 now. They're the professional standard. It's night and day different in that 15 years. So I can point to living here, working here, and contributing here where we actually got real results and made the community safer. Where what I'm going to talk about with Senator Gallego, he has not done that in the amount of time he's had in office. And that is my complete critique. You're going to find people out there that are going to attack him personally. My only personal attack is his vengeful nature. As a former Marine corporal that served from 2002 to 2006 myself, just like he did, Senator, thank you for your service. But the Marine that you were is not the representative you've become. And that is just it's just a matter of fact. People can go look at that history. I will never degrade the man's service to this country, and I won't degrade the piece of legislation that he's gotten passed through. Since he's been in Washington, D.C., Ruben Gallego has authored and gotten one piece of legislation passed. So I don't know how many years it's been. It's like been 11 or 12, somewhere in there, that he has had the opportunity to get real results for his constituents, and he's produced one bill. Now, hats off to the senator. Great piece of legislation. It helps out indigenous peoples and abuse that's happening on the reservations to the kids, right? To the most vulnerable in this state. And I can say that as a guy who worked fire and EMS I worked on a couple different reservations. I also worked in a community that is a displaced Native people from Mexico who moved north of the American border to escape Mexican government persecution in the 1800s, right? Because they chose the wrong side of one of those wars. So these peoples were being persecuted, so they fled to America for asylum. They've been living here ever since. They're Latinos. Senator Gallego he's only done one campaign stop in that town of Guadalupe. He's never done anything to help those peoples who came across here because of a government's persecution before. But he's very interested in all the deportations and all the things around the current border conversation. He wants nothing to do with fixing what's already broken here in the state other than that one great piece of legislation for the Native American community, which again, bravo, sir. But that's a slam dunk. That should be a nonpartisan issue, right? Like protecting indigenous children from abuse on reservations that are, if you've ever been on them, they're challenging, right? They're heartbreaking. And I grew up next to them. I've lived with them my whole life. I've worked with Native peoples my whole life. I love those people, right? We're all in this together. I didn't choose to be born in Scottsdale in 1981. I don't know if you chose where you were born. Leave it in the comments if you figured out how to pick your parents and where you were born. We could pass that information on and might help some others. But and I make that joke because none of us have that. We weren't in control of where we were born. We weren't in control of who we are, who we love, all those things that we all agree on. But we are not looking at the body of work of a man that's using the emotion on all those arguments I just brought up and seeing if he's done anything to actually make this place better. Again, one community that absolutely needs it. So good job. What you've done there, unfortunately, Senator, is you've proven that you can get something accomplished and that you didn't use the rest of your time to get as much accomplished as you could for the residents of Arizona. Make no mistake, I'm not running for office, okay? I'm literally just a constituent telling you what this man's record is, why you shouldn't vote for him in the future, and why he's not fit to be a candidate for president. The 2016 "when the worm turns" comment sticks out because it just shows a vengeful nature, right? The one piece of legislation stands out because a lot of times pass where he hasn't been able to be a leader that builds quality relationships to get things done. The other thing that stands out is if you look at his X usage, Twitter, whatever we're calling it these days, he's on his personal account right now. So all this stuff that they're doing to test him in these markets, they're doing it with him and Mark Kelly because the Democrat National Committee needs a strong man to run in the next election. With the popularity of J.D. Vance and him being a corporal in the Marine Corps for the global war on terror, I think that the Democrat Party is trying to see if Mr. Gallego's got that same kind of star appeal, if that makes sense, right? Because that's all they've been doing. And I'm going to get into that here in a second. So that's kind of why I'm saying this too, right? Because that's why it applies nationally. My dad had a piece of wisdom that he gave me as a kid. He's like, you never buy from salespeople. He goes, you talk to other customers and you talk to mechanics. And I was like, okay, the other customer is pretty straightforward. Why mechanics? And he's like, well, if you talk to a mechanic, he's going to tell you which vehicle breaks down the most, which, and you apply this to any product, right? Which one breaks down the most, which is the best, quality over the life cycle of it, quality of ride, quality of build. They're going to tell you the things that the salesperson never will, because the salesperson makes a commission off of selling. The mechanic gets paid to work on things. So what does the mechanic drive is probably one of the best questions you can ever ask, right? Any like high level activity I've ever gotten into, real hobby heavy guy myself, like I'm an archery hunter. So I go to the bow shop, and the guy who works on the bows, I'm like, what do you shoot? And he tells me. I'm like, why? And he's like, well, because I can time it easier. It's, it's more comfortable, blah, 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 blah. I want one of those, right? I want to try that out, because that person has an intimate knowledge of that product base, and what they've chosen is very specific. So that was something my dad passed to me, and that's kind of the crux of this video, right? I'm a constituent in Ruben Gallego's his current body of responsibility. And I'm telling you, he's only done one thing for us overall with that time. Now, you can look at his time at the state level, the city level, and I'm sure he's got a whole bunch of accolades, and his marketing people, I'm sorry, political advisors, they're just marketing people. They're going to go ahead and put he co-sponsored this. Right, got it. Again, him putting his feet to the ground and doing the actual work from beginning to end only happened once. The other critique I have is he's using that personal account where he can actually block and censor people. I'm one of them that he's blocked. So my account and Arizona here on Twitter, here on YouTube. I have one on X, same thing, same name. And I started pointing out the fact that he was born in Chicago and didn't care about Arizona, and he blocked me, right? So this is a guy talking tough and all these things, and you can go on X, you can find everybody who just dislikes this dude from stem to stern, and they attack, how he's lived personally and a whole bunch of other things. And that's not my bag, right? Again, I want results for my friends, relatives, and neighbors that I've lived here with my whole life and that I love. The people that he's moved here, right? He's from Chicago, serving the Marines, and then moved here, and has only been serving himself and the Democrat National Committee. He's a rubber stamp for them. That's what they've been doing, okay? So, why does Illinois need a guy from Hawaii to be their senator? Why does Arizona need a guy from Chicago to be our senator? Wouldn't it make more sense for him to be the senator of Illinois? Because he would be representing the values of where he was raised. Now, I'm not saying that that's a base requirement for anybody to be in office, right? If you have somebody who's a transplant, who's made this their home, loves this place, has set up roots, their family's here, their grandkids are going to be in the same school district that they're maintaining currently, that's a completely different animal, right? That's my grandparents. They moved out here from the East when there was opportunity, and they bought houses cheap, and then this place got expensive. So Ruben came out here as part of the place getting expensive and made it more expensive with his bad legislation. And that's the entire Democrat Party, unfortunately. And if you look at that pattern of people from somewhere else, Hillary Clinton winds up being a senator in New York after she spent a lifetime away from New York, right? They just install them in places where they think they can win and they think they have the numbers. Why is Arizona now a target? Well, you have to look at our growth. You have to look at the collapse of California, Illinois, all these different blue states. Their cities have become atrocious with the different district attorneys and the lax approach towards crime, and then the increased scrutiny of policing. So all these big cities are starting to, wobble, and people are getting out of them. So they're moving to places like Phoenix where it's still affordable. That drives up the prices, and then they start voting the same way because they want to fit in on Facebook. And here's another fun fact. When Ruben Gallego got put into his first congressional seat, if you look at, I always ask this question, what percentage of the voters did it take for them to win their primary? And so you look at the district that he won and you ask what percentage of those voters put him on the ticket. And it was under 7%, right? And then if you go back and you look at 2008 and you look at Obama and Hillary for that presidential primary, and you look at the total number of registered voters for the country and what percentage of those people put Obama on the ticket, it was 7.6. And then Hillary actually got 7.8. So if you go back and research 2008, you will find that the Democrats, the voters, more of them voted for Hillary than Obama. Obama is then put in place because the delegates choose him, not Hillary, because he's polling better against the Republican candidate, because the Democrat National Committee just wants control. They don't care who's up there. So they look at who's going to give them the best opportunity to win. We see the same thing when Hillary is beating Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders submits, and then they force Hillary in, right? We then see something very similar with the Joe Biden era. We have Kamala Harris, who was like the favorite from the media and everybody, right? Everybody was Kamala Harris, Kamala Harris. Tulsi Gabbard comes in and just lays waste to her because of her background of what she did in California, kind of like what I'm trying to do here with Ruben, right? Ruben has not served Arizona. He's served himself. He's served his party. And yeah, he's gotten himself to a good place in life. And you know what? They're going to give him a great job as a professor or a consultant. So don't worry about Ruben. He's going to be fine. The Democrats will take care of him. But we need to find somebody, I don't care if it's Democrat or a Republican, that this is their home. They're fighting for the people here. They're taking care of this state. They care more about us than they care about themselves, right? So we have a senator who is silencing a person like me, a fellow former Marine who was on a fire truck, who served this place, born and raised here. My family's always served this place. I can't use my First Amendment against him campaigning for president right now because he's using a glitch in the system, which is to use his personal account versus his official Senate account. Every time he's going to use a Senate account, I'm going to post this video. Every time he uses his official account where I cannot be blocked, I'm going to be there. He's going to continue to use that other one. I'm going to go ahead and spread this around this little community of Arizonans that are pissed about this dude, and they're just going after him. So hopefully this video resonates with that audience. But the thing, what's the solution, right? What's the answer, right? I'm going to take about 20 minutes of your time on this. And the solution is that you need to register for a party. I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat. And you need to show up on primary day, and you need to put in a candidate that has a vision to serve your community, not themselves. Take this same lens and look at any politician sitting, right? Put this against every single one you're looking at. How much have they given me? So I'm not going to take false promises anymore, my man. I want somebody who has a proven track record somewhere else. We want to get them in, and we want to have them actually get some work done. Not somebody who's had over a decade to get a lot of work done and only produced one functional thing. That's about it, right? You need to register. You need to go to the primaries. You need to put in better candidates. You need to not just pick the side that makes you feel comfortable at parties. You need to pick effective leaders. Otherwise, this place is going to continue to have the noise and the signal that we're seeing. Encourage your friends to do it. Become an educated voter. Figure out who these people are. What is their track record? What their campaign says, what the media who's friendly to their campaign, because the people who are donating to their campaign also buy ad space on that media outlet, and that's the simple game that's going on. So do a little research. Put a little effort into this place, and it will probably get better. If you continue to just vote for a color or just not participate because it's all screwed up, guess what? We're going to continue to have this struggle. So it's up to you. It's up to you to look at yourself in the mirror and say, have I done everything I can do to make sure the politicians that are in Washington, down at the city council, over at the school board, up at the state house, are those people over at my county board, are those people vetted and people that we believe in? If the answer is no, go find new people, right? The job pays all right. Again, I'm not running for anything because the system would destroy me for how I've lived. I grew up a little tougher than most and made some mistakes in my 20s, right? So, got some divorces and, fireman stuff. We joke about it, but our rates are through the roof because that's a hard job, and it's hard to find. Your interpersonal relationships do suffer as a result. And I spent a couple decades struggling with that, and luckily now I'm married and retired and everything's good. But the reason I put that out there is I can't run, right? They'll go through my past and they'll destroy me. But I can speak, just like you can. So speak to your neighbors. The pandemic stopped that. Start it again. You're not going to get to everybody. There's going to be the people who are just locked down, and they're like, no. Don't let them drive that effort. Don't let them discourage that. Go find people you believe in. That's where hope's going to come back from. Remember the hope and change that we were promised under Barack Obama? He also said we're 5 days away from fundamentally changing the United States of America right before election night. And I paused when he said that because I was like, the Republic's pretty nice, right? It's gotten us pretty far. I mean, it started out with a bunch of white dudes thinking only white dudes could vote. Now we're having some pretty in-depth conversations on an even playing field. So changing that fundamentally is probably not awesome. What do you mean, sir? And, you got made fun of for asking that question. You're looking too much into it, whatever. But I look back now at 2008 and that statement, and I look at the fundamental change in my education system. I look at the fundamental change of the heart of young people towards this country. I look at the fundamental change of, outlook towards a bright future. I look at the fundamental change of how we look at this planet and whether we can actually make it nice again, or if we're just going to destroy it for quarterly earnings so that campaigns and ad space can be bought. And I think that's where we're at. I think where a lot of us are heartbroken that we got lied to again and again and again by both parties, okay? Trump's the big disruptor, right? He's the wild card, and that's the reason I stayed a Republican, is they let us pick our guy at least. I didn't want him. I wanted a better leader, but we got the guy we got, and guess what? He's got the roots that are deep enough he can't be leveraged. Somebody like me from average background that gets into power, they're going to leverage me. Same as Ruben. Ruben's got a humble background. Right? First Latino Arizona senator, but he's not from here. Why not? And then with his time here, he's, told that Latino community he's there for them. But I worked for the Guadalupe Fire Department. That's a beautiful agency doing great work with a shoestring budget that they can barely afford. And he's done nothing for that. But we firefighters backed every single one of it. I don't know if it was every single one of his national campaigns, but we backed his Senate race. So there's a disparity in his espoused values and his actual, deliverables. And that's why I say, ask a mechanic, ask a customer. We're the customer, we're the people. Let's tell the rest of the people, those of us that have the courage to bring these arguments, we can articulate them. Bring them forward and let people hear them. Let them make up the decision for themselves. Go research Senator Gallego, research my claims. Take a look at that whole body of work, that whole life, right? From somewhere else, serving here, but not getting a lot done. But now he wants to run the country. If you'd have done a great job here, maybe we could talk about it, but he hasn't. And that's why I'm speaking out now. He hasn't served Arizona. He shouldn't be serving the country at the highest level. And we should, as Arizonans, we need to rethink having him continue to serve us. But that's going to be something that we talk about with his next senatorial run. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you for your time. Thank you if you shared this. Cut it up, use it, do whatever you want to. The senatorial word, that just hit me. Senate, run for Senate. I don't know. I'm doing my best. I'm new here. Anyway, senatorial. I'm gonna have to look that up after we cut. But take care of yourself. Take care of each other. I've got one piece of, this is kind of in retirement. I started relooking at everything, going, it's not working well. So we should rethink things. And something that hit me one day was, knowledge is only power if you retain it for power. It's liberation when you give it freely. And that's the power of the First Amendment, right? So use that liberation to get better arguments out there. Use platforms like YouTube and some of these other things. Invite people to take your content and cut it up and use it for theirs. I don't care. If you've got a great platform, you think I made a good argument, cut it up, use it, please. Subscribe, do all those things, however this works. This isn't a money-making venture for me. This is hey, we need to fix this place. I'd rather be on my fire truck, but I had to retire because of the corruption and what was going on in the pandemic. And I'll talk about that. I got to put that episode together eventually, but we're not there yet. So I got some other ones in the library where I talk about the mRNA therapies and my feelings there. But we're not going to talk about that here today. So, but yeah, that's why I can speak, right? When I was on the fire department, we have policies that say if you say anything that discredits the agency, they can fire you. And I worked for a place where they were doing really shady things to people that were speaking up. So, and as a union officer inside who ran elections, I would never participate in the shady stuff, but I turned a blind eye more times than I'm proud to talk about. And that's what led to my retirement. So this is kind of a catharsis and a way to kind of off gas when I didn't act and when I didn't speak up. Well, I should speak up now. So again, thanks for your time. That's the only guarantee. If it's been of value, share it. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. And we'll talk to you on the next one.